guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be doing eyeshadows that are great for one and done looks. Typically my eyeshadow preferences are pretty elaborate. You know, I'm going to use 4 to 6 shadows and I'm going to be putting some mattes in the crease and dynamic, interesting, colorful sorts of looks. Sometimes I tend to do more neutral looks, but those are also usually involving multiple shadows. But once in a while, I do actually want to just grab a single shadow, spread it on my lid, and feel a little bit extra, but not too much. A little bit sparkly but still sophisticated, maybe work appropriate, meeting appropriate, office appropriate, or honestly just, hey, I'm going to be outside today working in the garden and going for a run and take my kid to the park, but I still want to play a little bit. And these are shadows that are great for that. Couple little housekeeping details before I get started. This is going to be a swatching video, which I think I forgot to mention in the beginning, but also I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing on my face, and when we get to the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes, then I'll specify what that one is. Also, I think that this is going to end up being kind of a part one of several, because I was only about 1/3 of the way through my collection as I was selecting palettes for this video before I realized that I kind of had a lot. So maybe we'll have parts 2, part 3, part 4, however it'll go. I'm not sure, but today is part 1. So let me tell you the other details very quickly. I have a cream blush from Give Me Glow. This is the shade Floral. I have mascara on, although I am just wearing one eyeshadow on my whole lid space. I am wearing a Kaleidos lip clay in the shade Sienna, which is the name of the town where I used to live in Italy, although Sienna, Italy only has one N. And I have a little bit of highlighter from the Anastasia Beverly Hills Aurora Glow Kit. I used the green one. So that's everything as far as what I'm wearing today. And again, when I get to the actual palette that I'm wearing for my one and done, I'll get into it. But let's just jump into these palettes because honestly, I have so many pretty eyeshadows. It's so much fun to talk about them and I want to share them with you. When I'm thinking about a one and done eyeshadow, I'm thinking something that's not too colorful because the colors usually need to be worked into the skin. And so if you have a shadow that is too colorful, it, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, it's not gonna feel as cohesive as like a complete look. It's still, to me, gonna feel like it's missing something to make it just settle in, you know, to be grounded as a fully finished eye look. So I did select shadows that were a little bit less opaque, you know, a little more transparent, have a bit of a clearer kind of base, but are still impactful. I chose shadows that weren't too colorful, so most of these lean towards the neutral side of things, because for the most part, that's gonna work on multiple different skin tones and skin types and color preferences and coloring. Neutrals are also easier to work with no matter what kind of clothes you're wearing, what outfit you're wearing for that day. So I just thought that neutrals lend themselves to a one and done sort of effect. So the first palette that came to mind when I was thinking of one and done was the Monteverde Cloud Forest from Nomad, but specifically the Hanging Bridges shade. This one right up here. This is a green pink brown shade, and it is just a really interesting, lovely, and unique color. Now, I'm not very good at swatching. People don't come to my channel for swatching videos, but I'll do my best. Here's the Hanging Bridges shade from the Monteverde Cloud Forest palette. And I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to pick up these shifts on camera. In the palette, it looks more like a green-brown. On the skin, it tends to look more green, but then, let me swatch it again. Maybe I can get it even better for you. But then when you start to use it, you realize, oh wait, there's brown in there. Oh wait, there's pink in there. And that's just really interesting. And this is the kind of shade that comes alive the more you use it. It would be more impactful if you apply it with your finger than with a brush. And it's more impactful too if you were to put maybe a glitter glue under it, just to prime the eye properly and let the shadow speak as loudly as it can. From the Norns palette from Udin's Eye, I decided to use this Amber Palace shade, which is such a beautiful, in the pan it is kind of a gold brown white sort of marble shade. I just want to build up these swatches a little bit. Some shadows don't need to be built up, some do. That one just dropped. But here's the Amber Palace, and on my arm it definitely looks like a soft gold sort of color. Of course, you know, with a marbled shade in the pan, the colors all swirl together eventually, but it's a beautiful iridescent, lightweight, sparkly gold color, and it's really pretty. From Cosmic Brushes, I pulled out the Serenity palette. Specifically, I was thinking this shade right here, which is called Odyssey. Now, there were a couple of shades as I went through my collection that made me think, oh, that's such a great, impactful shimmer, but This one, for example. I think that this one is lovely, but it's too different from an ordinary skin tone because this is like a green, pinky, iridescent white sort of thing, very opalescent. It's actually called opal. But it really is opalescent, and so that's not really going to blend in so much with the skin tone. I think it'll stand out and you'll get a more distinct line where it stops. And that was my thought with colorful shimmers as well. You're going to get a very clear line where the shimmer is done being, and then it might look stark. So this is the shade Odyssey. Yeah, Odyssey. And I'll put that here. Now this is more of a base than the Norns. Also, by the way, my Norns palette and the Nomad palette, those are both older. They're several years old. The formula is probably starting to fade a little bit. But this is Odyssey, and this is just a beautiful, slightly more impactful, slightly more opaque version of this one here. Still sparkly, a little bit more warmth. I think if you were to pair this with a silver outfit, it would definitely clash perhaps more than this one would. It's a really lovely one and done shade. Saga of Freya from Udin's Eye is an old favorite. This is such an interesting palette, and I decided to check out the Wool Ball shade, which every time I say it, I feel like I say it funny. Wool Ball. I talk pretty fast, and then when I say something like that, I feel like I sound idiotic. I'll put it here just for kicks. But this is a beautiful, lightweight, again, lightweight and sparkly. My subsequent videos are going to be filled with Adept and Unearthly, probably. I hadn't gotten there to that point in my collection because I was just working one by one, and the Adept and Unearthly palettes are later on my bookshelf, the top shelf right over there. But it's going to be a good time, so you'll have to stick around and stay tuned for the subsequent videos in this little one and done series. This is a beautiful shade. Again, super light, super sparkly. This is another time, even more so, I think, than this. Here's another example of a shade that kind of pulls a little bit gold. If you put it with something that's cool toned, it's gonna pull more cool toned. You're gonna start catching these more silvery, super light blue reflects, because this shade, Wool Ball, is actually, it's a combination of brown, purple, champagne-y gold sorts of colors in a marbled shade. So each of those colors is going to come to play in its own way, and depending on what you pair it with. And we're not talking about pairing with shadows, we're talking about pairing with clothes or even just your skin undertones. So if you pair it with something warm, the purples and the silvers will come, no, if you pair it with something cool, the purples and the silvers are going to come out. But if you pair it with something warm, the browns and the golds will come out. So this is a lovely and really interesting shade, and I think Udin's Eye in the past has done that quite well. I can't really speak to a lot of their newer palettes because I feel like there was a quality issue in the last year or so. It's a beautiful mixture of some warm tones and reflex and some cool reflex. So whatever you pair it with, it's going to lean that direction, lean the other way. It's so much fun. It's so interesting. And again, it's lightweight. It's not too pigmented. It's not too opaque. It's not too much of anything. So it's perfect for a one and done. Sickly Sweet from Blend Bunny, probably my favorite shimmer in the palette. I really love this one, and I like this one a lot, but I think my favorite shimmer in the palette is Cupcake, and this is a great one and done. It's not too yellow. Could I do it? I'm just worried about swatching so poorly. It's not too yellow, but it does give sort of a soft, buttery yellow, almost lemon but not that bright, you know, kind of effect. So if you pair this with something that's, I mean, just think about pairing it with anything warm tone, just a little soft yellow on your lid space. It's sparkly, it's lightweight, it brings a bit of color and interest but not too much. It's very easy to wear, it's very easy to apply, and even though Blend Bunny is so well known for the excellence of their mattes, their shimmers are really pretty too. Here I have the Sashimi City palette from Kaleidos. I used to classify this as just boring. Like, I would look at it and go, why would anybody want that? It's so boring. But now I like it. Now I like neutrals. And honestly, I would say both of these shimmers are great one and dones. Maybe this one a little bit more than the other one. This one is a tiny bit drier, but it's also got slightly more reflect, more sparkle, like glittery effect in it. But just for kicks, because we're here and they're both so pretty, we will swatch both. Yeah, they're still both fine for one and dones. This one is the one that was a little bit more sparkly. You can see it's got more shine and reflect in it. It seems to have like a peachy, yellowy gold sort of effect. And then the one next to it is more orangey, peach leaning, and it is a little bit less reflective, still quite pretty. And again, if you put this on your lid, it's just going to soften away. You know, it's just going to blend. No matter what your skin tone, it would work on someone a very fair skin tone all the way up to someone with quite a lot of melanin and has more deep, rich skin tones. These colors are still going to look pretty. They're still going to be impactful and striking, but nothing is over the top or too much. I pulled out both of my What's Up Beauty palettes because the formula is unbeatable. It's so pretty. Okay, starting with Dragon Eye. Again, honestly, I think most of these shimmers would be lovely when undone's. A couple of them lean much more opaque or color heavy, so I personally might not do that. I'm thinking this one for sure. Maybe the purple one is a little too dark for what I'm thinking. Maybe even this one, but I'm gonna swatch these two right here. They're gorgeous. I recently used this palette in like 2 or 3 videos ago, so you can check that out on my channel if you want to see it. I do have a What's Up Beauty playlist, so you can check that out if you want to see every video using What's Up Beauty, but just look at these. Oh, they're so pretty. Here's one, and here's the other. So this one would be a lot more risky for a one and done because it's very pigmented. I'm just saying that as far as I'm thinking for one and dones, you might want to steer clear of something with that much pigment. However, if you wanted that kind of a color payoff, what you can do, if it is quite pigmented, is don't use your finger. Go in with a brush, a dry brush. Don't spray it, just apply it into the shadow and then apply it onto your lid space. That actually is what I did for today's look. There was a shadow that I wanted to use, but it was a little bit more pigmented. So I dipped into it with a dry flat brush and I just laid it on my lid. And then I used it to just sort of scuffle around, you know, so the sparkle, the glitter effects from the shadow started to disperse into my whole lid space. And then this one, the shade Fly, is gorgeous. In the swatch, looks like a champagne bluey green kind of thing. Are you able to see any of those reflects on camera? I film with my iPhone, so it's good camera quality, but it's not like a DSLR camera or something of higher quality with better resolution. But hopefully you guys can see some of these shades. And it's not necessarily like the spicy neutrals video, although pretty much any spicy neutral might make a good one and done. But the point is, these aren't necessarily really shifty shades or anything. They're just shades that work beautifully. A beautiful, soft wash of color. And along those same lines, we have the What's Up Beauty Geodes palette. And I decided to pull this shade right here. They're all beautiful, but I think that as far as pigmentation, you know, and the depth of color and stuff, like if I were to swatch or to lay this on my eyes, I would definitely do it with a dry brush, because with my finger, it's just gonna be much more impactful spot, and then it'll be harder to blend it away and soften into the skin around. So I'm going to use rose quartz right here, and I think I'll swatch that here. This is a lovely, what is it? It's a pink, kind of pinky purple, or like a rosy purple perhaps. I see a lot of pink in there. It's not as sparkly, it's not as interesting perhaps, but it gives you a really lovely soft wash of color. And this actually segues me really nicely into the next palette, which tends to remind me of the What's Up Beauty formula. This is from Revolution Beauty. I don't know if they're using the BH formula, but whatever they're doing, whatever they've done in this palette is quite nice. And I think that the other ones from this lineup, this is the Enchanted Icon, probably also quite nice. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna swatch these two here. So this one and this one. And we'll put that right here because that's the one I was immediately thinking of. And then we'll put this one next to it. So the first one, we've got quite a similar color comparison to the What's Up Beauty Geodes palette. Again, just a soft, rosy kind of pink. And then the second one is much more gold, but it's not such a heavy gold. It's not such a thick or creamy or opaque formula that you're just gonna get foiled gold on your lid. This is more soft, gentle wash. This one I might also apply with a dry brush, because with the finger you're going to get a lot more reflect, but it's also not going to melt into the skin around the eye the way that you might want. But good choices. All right, this is a palette which has truly and consistently surprised and impressed me, from a brand that I had a few palettes from and I never really cared that much, but now this one caught my attention, the Sigma Little Mermaid palette. And I'm gonna pull this shade here. This is called Seagull, and this is one of the most white leaning one and done shades I'm pulling for today's look. guess I'll put it here. It is quite white. Let me build that up a little bit. But it's a very light white. It's a very soft, workable, safe kind of color. It's not too much. It's not too thick. It's not too opaque. It is quite cool toned. But then it has a little flash of maybe some yellow in there. So again, it would give you a bit of versatility with your outfit. If you had something that was maybe, I mean, imagine like a soft buttery yellow outfit or shirt or something, that would work with yellow warm tones, but that would also work with a slightly more creamy kind of white tone because of the butter yellow. So this is a perfect shade for that. Even here, I feel like I see some blue as well in the reflect. And this really surprised me from Sigma. They did a great job with this palette, with this collaboration. Everything makes sense. Everything's perfect. And I think that's a great one and done shade if you want to do something a little bit more frosty, but again, not too much. Here's a shade which I just couldn't seem to say no to for today's video. Again, I might apply it with a dry brush, but this is from the Spooked palette from Gourmand Girls, and the shade I'm looking at is called Pumpkin. Now, this is, I mean, it's almost like a spicy neutral, but it's too orangey, too salmon colored to really be a neutral, but this would be such a fun one and done. It is a lightweight, shimmery formula and sparkly, like glittery formula. Not really a glitter though. I'm gonna start swatching on my hand because I'm running out of space. And this one is quite peachy as well. In the reflect, I see a bit of blue, and yet it's not super opaque. It's a very light skin coating kind of formula. I might apply this with a brush because again, it would give me a bit more flexibility to softly diffuse the color into the space around my lid. But if you wanted that kind of color, just like this one, they're actually quite similar in color. This one has a different, like a cool bluey green reflect, and this one has the more rosy gold reflect. But anyway, if you want that kind of color, but still want it to be very light, use a dry brush. Let's talk about what I am wearing on my eyes today. This is from the Stone and Rock Udenzai palette. Udenzai Stone and Rock palette. Don't know why I said that backwards. I am wearing this shade right here, and I'll swatch it for you, but you can also see it on my eyes. And this one, again, in the swatch on the finger, it's a little bit intense. You might think, no, that's not a one and done shade. But all I did was I went into it with a flat, dry brush. If at any point I had gone in with my fingers, I would have gotten more of a foiled look. But I didn't. I just used the brush, and that's how I got the look that I'm wearing today. I didn't use any mattes. I didn't grab any of these very tempting shades for an inner corner highlight. It's only this. And I think that that's a lovely version of a one and done shade that's not too neutral. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, green is pretty neutral, but it's not brown, it's not tan, it's not champagne, it's not anything soft and safe. It's green, right? But it's just a really wearable green, and it's light enough, and it's sparkly enough, and it's thin or transparent enough that it's workable. So I could pair it with a green outfit, but not feel like I'm wearing something heavy. Not heavy eyeshadow, nothing too colorful. I could wear this to the office and feel like it was within the bounds of what they might consider professional. And actually, if you look at my eyes, even though it looks so cool in the pan, I mean, it does look like a silvery green, right? But I feel like on my eyes, in my current lighting, which is just the window, and maybe paired with the coloring of my shirt with these little brown flecks and beads and stuff, I feel like I see a hint of gold in the shadow. And maybe you do, maybe you don't, but yeah, it's just versatile and it's lovely. Anything else in this palette for a one and done? Both of these I think would be lovely. This one maybe, again, go in with a dry brush, but we'll swatch these two for the kicks. This is Gleefulness and Lightheartedness. Okay, Gleefulness is quite a bit more opaque, and it gives us, again, that warm, not really warm, but a pretty warm gold. And then Lightheartedness is a brown shimmer. This one didn't swatch great, but it's also a slightly different formula. The Lightheartedness is more of a soft brown, but because it's not super impactful, it's going to easily work into what, you know, your natural skin tones. Two more palettes. I know I'm trying to go pretty quick because I had a lot. And as I said, there are probably 2 more videos easy in my collection. So let me know if you definitely want to see more of this. Pretty Chic from Colored Raine. I had to pull this one for this shade right here. This is one of the other really white toned shimmers that I've got today, but this shade surprised the dickens out of me. Because looking in the pan, I see mainly white, but then I look a little closer and I see, okay, well, we've got sort of some pink and some green and some blue and a little bit of purple too. Now those colors don't necessarily, and well, and on my finger it looks purple, doesn't it? Do you see? Those colors don't necessarily play into the full swatch. The swatch looks more of a purpley blue, but again, the closer I look, the more I see those little flips of sparkle and glitter, a little bit of green, some pink, some blue. It's just an interesting shade. So as far as one and dones, this is another nice option. It's more cool tone for sure. It's definitely more pink purple leaning. But if you imagine pairing this color with a white outfit, like a white shirt or a light blue outfit, and the light blue clothes will sort of draw the light blue shimmers and sparkles out of that shade, it could actually really surprise you. In fact, it did really surprise me, because at first I thought it was just pretty much a white shimmer, and then when I swatched it I realized it's not at all a white shimmer. It's just sneaky. It's just sneaky. And finally, the Ensley Raine Hoppy Go Lucky palette. This one also I had to pull. The shade is called Hoppy Hour, and it was quite a surprising shadow for me. I'll put that right here. This is where all the people on Instagram swatch their shimmers. Okay, so Hoppy Go Lucky is right here on the bone of my thumb. So this shade in the pan looks to be just a minty green shimmer. But can you guys see the mint green for sure? Also some pink, some purple, some blue. It's kind of like unicorn sparkles. Just really light. Again, there's not a huge amount of pigment. There's not a very firm base on a lot of these. You don't get a thick foundational color and then shifts on top of that. It's not like that. They're almost toppery shades, but then not fully, if I'm making any sense. And that's why I think they're perfect for one and dones, because if you just want one shade, it's so low maintenance, it's so low fuss. You don't have to think about it, you don't have to analyze, you don't have to put a lot of time into your look. There's not too much of a presence, which is great, because if you're not using other products to take an established shadow and then blend it in to your skin, you don't want too much presence. You just want a little swish of sparkle, maybe some color, maybe a flash of something interesting that catches people's eye, but they're like, wait, what do you, oh, that's pretty, you know, that kind of thing. Everything feels very controlled, and yet you're expressing yourself, you're having fun, you're being creative, and you're playing with the beautiful shadows which exist in your home. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. I would love to hear your thoughts. If there was a palette that I mentioned and I didn't specify the shadow you were thinking of, let me know in the comments. If there are some palettes that you just love to use for one and done, let me know in the comments. You know, eyeshadow doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be over the top or really involved. Sometimes it's just beautiful to have a simple wash of color and sparkle and just go about your day. I would love to chat with you guys, of course. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving me some of your day, for some of your time. Perhaps you'll consider liking and subscribing before you go if you want to see more content like this. Remember to check my description box for lots of suggestions, answers to questions, other information. What I'm wearing will be linked down there as well. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.